am. I've always wanted to do that. My name is Rollie, and I'm a real Al-Anon. God, it's good to be here. Ooh, I knew I was coming here a year ago. Unfortunately, the people that invited me forgot. This has been a weird week. Hell, this has been a weird day. When you go to these things, normally they have a host. Someone who cares for your every need. Someone who kisses up on a regular basis. I got neither one. What is it about me when I travel? I get the ugly ones. This is amazing. I don't know what happened to me. I go to some places and they pick the ugliest people, and they get somebody not even in the program. They say, you're ugly enough to be his host. But thank God, it didn't happen that way. I got here yesterday. I was standing around. 2 alcoholic women came up and asked me to go have donuts. Hey, I'm going to tell you, it don't get no better than that. God, I'll tell you, I hope you're ready to relax. I was scheduled to speak at 11 and 12. This is the slow version, okay? All right, but I want to get a few things out of the way before I get started. The first one is, thank you for having me here. God bless you. I really like doing this. When I was growing up, I must have thought, one of these days, a whole bunch of alcoholics going to invite me to go west. God, I want to do that. And I do. I love it. I love doing this. I love getting the invitations. I love going and being with the people and being here and talking to you and getting to share my life with you and listen as you share your life with me. I absolutely love it. If you think by some mistake that I don't really, really like this, you're wrong. I love it. But I'm going to tell you something in all seriousness. This is not what we're about. This is a lot of fun. God, I love it. This is pumping it up. This is fellowship. But this ain't our deal. We have a deal. It's an important deal. And it deals with alcoholism. It's our job to be there and pass it on. And we do that not in places like this, but in parking lots, behind clubhouses, over the telephone, in jailhouses, one-on-one, when we tell someone else what we were like. That's our deal. So let's have a lot of fun, but let's don't get it confused. Let's make this a lot of fun. Let's have the fellowship, and let's be with one another. And then let's go home and take care of business. Because that's what allows us to be here. Without that part, we wouldn't be here, baby. Wouldn't be any celebration unless we had something to celebrate. God, I'm glad I got that said. Now, I was growing up. I was growing up in Alabama. When you're growing up in Alabama, it happens quick. I don't know how fast you grow up out here, but you grow up real quick in Alabama. One day I'm sitting out in the front yard in a little sandbox, minding my own business, and I look up, and there comes a couple of vans or trucks of guys, just big old pickup trucks, and they drove up in front of my next door neighbor's house. And they jumped out, and they had these long white robes, long white pointed hats, and they ran over and they surrounded his house. And I watched. And Mr. Hunt broke out the back door, and when he did, he ran over and they grabbed him and just beat the hell out of him. And they drug him around in the yard. There's about 20 of them. And they drug him around, and they beat him up, and they drug him up to the back of one of them pickup trucks, and they stepped on his head as they were getting up into the truck. My mother seen what was happening, come running out, grabbed me up, and headed on the inside with me. I remember looking over his shoulder and watching him step on old Hunt's head. And I said, Mother, why in the world are they doing that to Mr. Hunt? And she said, you didn't see anything. Nothing happened. And just as we were getting to the door, I seen my first premonition. The premonition was that as those guys drove off, an ambulance drove up. It was as if the ambulance driver knew what was going to happen. And they just picked Mr. Hunt up and off to the hospital they went. And I said, Mother, my God, I seen it. I know it. She said, you didn't see anything. Leave it alone. And the next day, being a real Al-Anon, being one of the real ones, one of the touched ones, I think, I went all the way around the neighborhood and I asked everybody, why did they do that to Mr. Hunt? Nobody's seen nothing. But I'm a real Al-Anon, so I stuck my nose in everybody's business. I went around and I talked to people that weren't even listening. That ain't unusual, is it? But there I was. Nobody would tell me. Finally, my father came home. When he did, he's a long-distance truck driver. And I said, Daddy, why in the world them guys beat up Mr. Hunt? And he said, well, son, the reason they beat him up is because Mr. Hunt's a sot. And sot's in the big book. I looked it up. Joe and Charlie was telling me about it. I had an argument with them, and hey, it's right there in the book. And back when I was growing up, sot was like real alcoholic. Hey, long term and everything. But hey, he was beat up because he's a drunk, and those guys got a cure for alcoholism. And so that was my first noticed cure. When you're about 5 or 6 years old and you believe that, oh, you got some growing up to do. You know? And I got a bunch of uncles, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about my uncles because the word uncle is synonymous with alcoholic. If I say uncle, I mean alcoholic. If I say alcoholic, I normally mean uncle. In the next little phase here, every uncle I had was an alcoholic. And they all done different things, and I come from an alcoholic family. And you know how it is. Hell, it's dogs barking and cats scratching and broken arms and legs and siren whistles and jail calls and alcoholics out in the middle of the night with me chasing them and finding them and dragging them home and them sneaking out the house and going back again and he going back and getting, my God, by 9 years old I had done all that. And then it got serious. I was visiting my grandfather one day, and the telephone rang, and I picked it up. Sheriff's Department said, one of your uncles, alcoholics, down here, we picked him up. Need to tell your grandfather to come and get him. I said, that ain't a problem, just keep him. My grandfather walked in the room and said, who was that? And I said, I was the Sheriff's Department. He said, what did they want? And I said, well, one of them's in the jail, and they want us to come and get him. He said, well, I will. And I said, no, you don't have to. He said, what you mean? I said, y'all probably got one of them organizations over here. Long white robe guys. My grandfather, he laughed just like you did. Pissed me off. Man, I was mad. And being a real Al-Anon, I got even. I never spoke to him again. I took him right out of my life because, see, that's the way I deal with stuff. That's my way of attaching. Or detaching. I just took him right out of my life. I was in a program and was doing a night step, and I got in there and I was telling my sponsor, and he said, I said, I need to make amends to my grandfather, but he died. He said, why would you make amends to him? And I said, well, I took away a grandson. He said, no. If what you told me is right, he continued to send you gifts and chat with you on Christmas, keep up with your education, see how your life was going. He continued to have a son, a grandson. You dumbass. You lost a grandfather. And I said, man, you're right. And I did. And I could recognize all the grandfathers I had lost. And all the people that I had run out of. Now, I'll tell you, I'm one of them real ones that ran out of friends and enemies the same day. Everybody just got away from me. I noticed when I left Alabama and moved south, nobody followed me. Nobody ever called and said, Rollie, come up here and take care of our problems. In Alabama, they got along without me. I could not believe it. I said, God, what are those people doing? But I got down to South Georgia, and I got to messing around, and y'all know how it is. You're just having a good time. And one night, I was sitting there in the bar room, just like you're supposed to be doing. Lady came over, kind of squished in between us. I said, honey, would you like this bar stew? And she said, no, but I'll get on it, will you? And her name was Pat. And her and I got on that bar stew. We've been on that three-legged sucker ever since. It just kind of wobbles with us in the night. It's an amazing deal, and it's a lifestyle that I was made for. And it's the woman that I love. I wouldn't take anything for her. I'm here basically because I love old dogs and alcoholic women. I'm going to be honest with you. Alcoholic men are okay, but they just don't do that much for me. And I'm going to tell you, you got to be careful about that little line, because you screw it at one time, buddy, your butt's burned. But I do. I love them old dogs. I'm going to tell you a dog story. I'm going to tell it toward the end because I'll be crying by then. Hate to start crying early. I'm a cowboy. Cowboys don't cry. You know how that is. But anyway, got Pat and I hooked into it. She was perfect. She had problems. And I'm not talking about your regular problems. Hell, I'm talking about industrial strength problems. I'm talking about she had drunk up all her boss's liquor in his cabinet and left the 2 kids at school and left her husband in another town, got her car picked up, run up a $250 phone bill, drank 17 beers, and it was just about 7:30. I said, hell, this is my kind of woman. So it's a damn shame ain't 2 of these here. But me and her hooked into it, and I loved it. God, she had kids. Kids had problems. Man, I got answers. You know, I'm the kind of guy I got everybody's answer. Hell, you want an answer, just come to me. I'll give it to you. Hell, I'm good at that. I've always been like that. I'm a real Al-Anon. You know, Al-Anons are so great to alcoholics. If there was more of us, there'd be fewer of you. I'm convinced Al-Anons kill more alcoholics than alcohol does. If you think we love you, you're wrong. We're obsessed with you. We got a magnet on your forehead, baby. But you go, what? Just like that every time. You know, I'm like that. God, I just love it. But don't ever forget, I will sacrifice you. I'll let you die to keep me from looking bad. I'm a real Al-Anon. A lot of people out there already sacrificed a few. I can tell when I look around. I know them eyes, because we're real Al-Anons. That's the way we think. God bless her. My wife done the best she could with me. I'll be honest with you. She hung it in there, and she stayed drunk and done her deal, and I helped her best I could. Every night when I went home, the dinner was waiting on me. The potato was always right. Life was just like it was supposed to be. I got everything I wanted in life. My deal with her, and it's the same deal you have, I just never mentioned her drinking. And that was our deal. And we done that one day at a time for a long, long time. God, we must have enjoyed it. We just hooked right into it. It was a natural thing. Them kids were going to hell in a handbasket. The dog was barking. Pat was waiting on me to come home so she could feed me and then pass out. You know how it is. You get there to the house, and I'd pick up A, and she'd pick up C or D, and I'd say, how you doing? She'd say, fine. She'd put the meal in. I'd ask her a question. She'd give me the wrong answer. I'd correct her. She'd have a drink. I'd have a drink. We'd burn the pie. Send the kids to bed. Have another drink. She'd get to crying. I'd get to whining and straighten her out. Finally, I would correct her. It'd be about 1:30 in the morning. I'd finally get that argument to the point, this is it. She'd pass out. And I'd spend 30 minutes waking her up. And when I got her wide awake, I'd go to sleep. I remember the first time I had sex sober. God, that was weird. We had sex, I don't know, 1,000 times. But we'd never had sober sex. I mean, where you put stuff is amazing when you're sober. I'm just not going to get into that. I see y'all more of a decent group. But it is amazing. And we found out, God, we must have loved. We just hung it in there. And one day I went off. She stayed home. She got drunk. I come home and corrected her. She said, Rollie, I got a problem. I said, what's this? She said, I can't quit drinking. I said, well, God, honey, I can help you with that. She said, by the way, your grandmother's dying over in Alabama, and we might have to go over there. And, of course, she knew there'd be no drinking in Alabama. It was better if she quit there. So I gave her the old Rollie relief method, rehab deal right there in the waterbed. I laid her there, covered her up with blankets, and watched her vibrate. If you don't hear anything else I say, you hear this, because I'm the kind of Al-Anon that'll let her die. I'd have let her die. She'd have died in that damn bed. And she'd have died as a result of acute alcoholic poisoning. But the reason she would have died is Rollie's ego. And I must never forget that. I would have killed her. I didn't want to be embarrassed. Who in the hell wants everybody to know you got a drunk wife? I would have given anything, including her life, to keep from people knowing that. And that's sad. That's what we have to overcome. That's our deal. We're that kind of people. I'm that kind of people. But she lived. So did my grandmother. Pissed Pat off. There she had gotten sober. The lady lived. Pat never would talk to her anymore. Some time went by and Pat finally came back again. She said, all I can take, I just can't do it anymore. I got this telephone number on Alcoholics Anonymous. I probably ought to call them. I said, God, holler at them. And she said, well, it's Sunday and they're not there. They're probably off at a retreat or something. She said, they certainly wouldn't be. I said, give me that telephone. So I called them. I got on that telephone, and you're not supposed to do it, and I know it, but I talked to them, and hell, they sent two out. And there was that knock on the door. I opened that door, and there's a little girl named Hilda, little blonde-headed girl, I'll never forget her. And there was an old guy named Bobby, and Bobby smoked them more cigars. And Bobby looked at me, and Hilda looked at me, and Hilda looked at Bobby, and Bobby looked at Hilda, and Hilda said, I think he'll probably need treatment. I said, hold on, it's not me, hell, it's her, come here. You know, I drug him inside there, I said, there she is. And over on the couch sat Pat. And they sat down, and God bless them, they gave her their classic 12-step call, right out of the book. They began to tell their story, and she began to ask questions, and I began to give answers. Just like you're supposed to. And they done it again. About the third time I had to go feed the dog for some reason. I don't know. They ran me out of the room. And I had a can opener and a dog under one arm and a foot in the doorway. And I was trying to listen. And it was a weird deal. And at the end of it, they had spent some time with us. And they said, why don't y'all come to our meeting on Wednesday? And since they had wasted their Sunday, we figured we'd go to their meeting on Wednesday. So come Wednesday, we done it just like you're supposed to do it. Hooked it to hip right there. We walked into that first meeting, one-on-one. Sat down in that chair, side by side, just like you're supposed to. Had our little cup of coffee and watched everybody. Guy came over and said, hello, my name's Bubba, and I'm an alcoholic. I said, hi, Bubba, I'm Rollie. He said, are you an alcoholic? And I said, no, but I got one. Bubba began to talk to Pat. Pissed me off. He began to ignore me, and a few minutes went by, and two guys got me by the arms. I don't know yet how they done it, and I was up. I was out of the room. I said, wait, where are we going? They said, there's a group down the hall for you. I said, you don't understand. That's my wife in there. That's not somebody I just picked up and brought to a meeting. Hell. They said, oh, no, you got to go down here. I said, look, no, we'll back up here. There's a bunch of old drunks in there. I ain't leaving my wife in there. She's a cute lady. Look what them perverts will do to her. I've been coming for a while. Hell, I met Clint a while ago. I was right. But they drugged me down the hall. They wouldn't listen to me, buddy. Got me down there. Got me right in front. Y'all get this picture now. I'm standing there, one under each arm. They opened the door and they shoved me. I went into the room and kind of looked around. And there they sat. 12 little blue-lipped, white-haired women. They looked up at me kind of funny. One of them said, what do you want? I said, hell, I don't know. I was down there. They ran me off. And they said, go back and try again. So I'll be honest with you. I was kicked out the day I got here. Nobody fell in love with me in Al-Anon, man. I come in, they took one look at me and said, whoa, God, do I look like an Al-Anon? Am I the quintessential Al-Anon? I mean, I dress a little different. I haven't worn makeup in years. I went in that meeting and the weirdest thing happened. They were sitting there. They were talking about soap operas. And I'm going to be honest with you. I'm a salesman. Hell, I can't watch TV during the daytime unless maybe Oprah's on. But I don't have time enough to keep up with that. And halfway during the meeting, they began to talk about cooking cookies and baking cookies. My God, that's a sick thing. Big, ugly redneck like me baking cookies. Who could ever imagine such a thing? My God, I was disgusted. The meeting ended. I ran down the hall, got Pat, headed out the door. I said, how'd it go? And she said, it went real good. I said, they talk about it cookies? She said, no. And I said, they talk about anything on TV? She said, no. I said, damn, different kind of meeting there, you know. And I went on home, but boy, I just hated Al-Anon. God, it was disgusting. Gave me an upset stomach thinking about it. She went back 30 days, got the cure. She came home one night. She said, found out deal. I said, what's that? She said, I didn't have the proper amount of fear for alcohol. I said, great. Popped that top. We had a beer, and off we went. And the next 5 months, she done what I know today to be controlled drinking. The only way I know to describe controlled drinking is it's like getting a picture or having a portrait made of somebody that you've known all their life. And when you look at the portrait, it just ain't them. And that was her. She was gone. And I looked in her eyes and there was nobody home. And I didn't know why. And one day I came home and she had all she could take. And she pulled out this big old bottle of vodka. And she said, Rollie, I'm going to drink the whole damn thing. And when I do, it's going to kill me or knock me in the hospital. And the only thing I know to do is call Alcoholics Anonymous and go back. And I said, no, Pat, there's no need in doing that. And I was thinking about them guys with the white robes. Be honest with you, she's a good-looking lady. God bless her, and I just didn't want to do that. And I argued with her and told her about religion, of which I knew nothing. But I'm an expert. And I told her about it. It didn't convince her, and she called Alcoholics Anonymous. And she said, I want to come back. And they said, come on back. And she went back to the meetings, and they opened their arms, and they hugged her, and they acted as if she wasn't even gone. You think it's like that for me when I went to Al-Anon? A little more compassion on the other side. She went on back there and she found a way of life. And I'm going to tell you, the way of life she found was sobriety. Her sobriety screwed up my way of life. It just don't get no plainer than that. I'll tell you, it was awful. My God, she went on back and it just blew me away. One day I came home about noon checking on her just like you're supposed to. Walked in the house, she's sitting there on the couch with the next door neighbor's wife, and they were drinking them little cans of beer. It just blew me away. And it was a new house and a new home and a new neighborhood. I didn't want to show my butt, so I just got in the car and I drove on home. And I drove around a little while and I worried and I hurt and all the fear and the anger and the pulse inside my body began to throb. And I began to get mad. And when I got back to the house about 15 minutes later, I walked back in that house and they were still sitting there having their cans of beer. So I just went on back to the bedroom and laid down. And as I laid on that bed, I began to have dry heaves. And I went into the bathroom and I couldn't throw up and I was angry. And everything that came to a point in my life happened to me right there on the floor in the bathroom. And I was sitting between the bathroom and the bedroom, and Pat came into the room and she said, Rollie, what's wrong with you? And I levitated. I didn't get up. Hell, I just came off the floor and I went right at her and I got out and hit her. I'd have grabbed her. I was so angry. And I ran right at her. And I said, you're sitting there drinking that damn beer. And when I did, she said, whoa, fat boy. She said, you better look in that garbage can before you say anything else. And for I don't know what reason, because I have never done it in my life, I stopped. I walked down the hall, lifted up that garbage can lid, reached down there. Y'all ever seen them Diet 7-Up cans, them little silver ones? That's what she was drinking. She looked at me and she said, Rollie, you're crazy. I looked at her and I said, you're right. She said, what are you going to do? I said, I'm going back to that damn Al-Anon, and by God, if there's something there, I'm going to find it, because this is killing me. I cannot live this way. And I went back. They weren't happy to see me. They didn't let me chair no meetings, I'll be honest with you. But I got to go into them meetings, and I hated every minute of it. God, I just hated it. Y'all know the ones I'm talking about, the bad ones. God, they were awful. Nobody understood me. And one day I came home, it was night about 10 o'clock, and I come strolling in that house, and I looked around, my daughter was sitting there, and I said, where's Pat at? And she said, well, Pat left to go to the meeting earlier. And I said, hey, it's 10 o'clock, where's she at? And my daughter looked at me, and she knew what was about to happen. We were about to have the interview. And she just got the hell out of the room. She left. before I could really get started on the interview. And there I sat just getting angry. And 10:30 and 10:45 and 10 minutes to 11. And in come Pat through that door. And when she did, I came up out of that chair. And I went across there and I said, where in the hell have you been? She said, I've been to the meeting tonight. And I said, don't give me that crap. You go to the meeting, it's 8 o'clock, the meeting lasts till 9. You get a cup of coffee, you get a donut, you stand around, it's a 10-minute drive home. Hell, you're home by 9:30. My God, lady, it's 10:50 and you're just rolling in here. Where in the hell have you been? She said, that night we went to Sylvester. I said, Sylvester? And I said, that's 30 miles away. Why did you go there? She said, because that's where the meeting was. I said, well, what's all this we stuff? She said, me and Carl and J.C. Y'all beginning to get it, ain't you? I said, I never met them ladies. She said, they ain't ladies. I said, who the hell are they? She said, they're a couple of old drunks down at the AA. I said, did you go in their car? She said, hell no. Neither one of them's got a car. One of them can't drive, the other one won't drive. I said, you mean to tell me my wife's going 30 miles in the middle of the night, driving a couple of drunks, going to an AA meeting? My God, are you crazy? You can never do that again. She said, oh, yes, I will. I said, oh, no, you won't. She said, my sobriety comes first. And I said, what comes second? She said, my mother. I said, what comes third? She said, my father. I said, fourth. She said, the kids. I said, fifth. She said, the dog. I'm going to be honest with you. I was sixth. I never really asked her, but I know I was sixth. I said, this can't happen anymore. I got to put an end to this. This is ridiculous. What's going to happen if y'all go out there in the middle of the night, roll that car over and you kill, and the headline says, Rollie's wife with 2 alcoholics. I said, this could be awful for my career. This could ruin me. I said, I'm a real Al-Anon. I got to do something about this. I did. Hell, I fixed it. I became the South Georgia Taxi Service for Alcoholics Anonymous. Every time we get ready to go to that meeting, we get in that car. And I don't know how they do it nowadays. They have non-smoking meetings. I don't have a concept for that. How in the world do you get sober not smoking? It's amazing. We used to get in that car. I smoked Vantage Green. Pat smoked Pall Malls. Well, Frankie was one of the ladies that rode with us, and Frankie rolled something. It smelled weird. And then we had Carl. And that damn Carl, he always smoked them Vantage Green like I did. And J.C., God bless him, loved them Marlboros. And we'd get in that car, roll them windows up, drive 30 miles to a meeting. We'd open that door up, that mushroom cloud would come out of there. People would be standing up there and say, come on down, you know. God, it was just like they wanted us to come into their meeting, you know. We'd come in there and the stain would be in their face and in their hair and in their... God, it was just amazing. We'd go in there and we'd go to the meeting and I'd get in there with them. It'd send me to the other meeting. And I hated it. God, I just hated it. The meeting would end, we'd go back out, get in the car, light up, head home. They would all talk program. Easy does it. One day at a time. First things first. I said, get a damn job. Damn people driving me crazy, I'll tell you. But I went nuts one day at a time riding with them. We went every place. And finally one day I'd gone as far as I could go. And I took the oldest sober member of our group there in Gainesville. I mean, God bless her, in Tifton. And I took her aside and I said, look, I need some help. And she said, well, what can I do? And I said, I need to take these steps y'all talking about. And God bless her, she didn't lie to me. She said, you know, Rollie, I took a 4th step. But my husband stayed sober, and it's been 8 years. And I've never found it necessary to take a 5th step. And I sponsor most of the people in the program, and I know none of them have done it. And I'll be honest with you, I don't think that's going to work for you. Hell, you're coming apart. I said, yeah, what am I going to do? She said, find anybody that can help you, because, God, you need it. And so I did. I was sitting over my wife's sponsor's house Tuesday night, about 7 o'clock. Guy came in the room, looked down at me. I said, Bob? He said, yeah. I said, will you be my sponsor? He said, sure, fat boy. We formed a relationship right there. He said, here's what I want you to do. Go get you a big book. And I'm not talking about the new one. I'm talking about the old one. He said, go get that book and read that first part. And call me. I said, wait just a second, Bob. I'm in Al-Anon. He said, hey, it don't bother me if it don't bother you. So I did. He said, well, there's one other thing I want you to do. I want you to pray. I said, oh, hell, I pray. He said, what kind of prayers you say? I said, well, I say all kind of prayers. He said, well, give me an idea of one of your prayers. He said, oh, well, it's different ones. He said, you lie a lot too, don't you? See, he's seen me. He's seen right through me. And he knew me, and God bless me. God bless him that he knew me. He knew how I thought. He knew what I needed. And he told me about his life and what had happened to him. And he suggested a program of recovery that had given him a new life. He didn't make up anything or give me any sharp ideas or tell me to go to somebody else's office. Shit, he told me about him. He gave me the only asset we have, ourselves. He gave me an opportunity to share his life by listening to him and what he had done. I used to call Bob and I'd say, Bob, what do you think about such and such? And it'd be some off-the-wall question. He'd just hang up the telephone. I'd call him back and I said, do you think at all? Hell, he'd hang up the telephone again. He's a crazy guy. But he shared his life with me. Therefore, I have a life to share with you. Without him, I wouldn't be here. Without him, you would never know me. The main thing is, without him, I would never know you. He described to me what he'd done. He didn't tell me what I ought to do. Hell, he told me what he'd done. I'd done what he'd done. I became an asshole too. I got to get something in there. I'm crying too damn much, okay? God bless you, Bob. When you hear this, I love you. But I want to tell you, it's changed my whole life. It's changed everything. And it's that change I want to talk to you. I want to spend a few minutes talking to you about that. Because that's important. The sun's hot, but hey, I'm in the shade. But I do want you to know. Spilt my water. See those damn guys, they just jumped up, rushed over here, brought me more water. Great people, I'll tell you. Well, let me talk to you. Now, I want to talk to you about this deal for a minute. I want to tell you that if I could have made a list of everything I wanted and important to me in life at that moment, and it's the top 100 things, and I had gotten every damn one of them, it would have been self-robbery compared to what I've had here. I would have just beat myself out of your life if I'd just gotten it all. I want to introduce somebody to you. And a year ago, he drove 5, 6, 7, 800 miles with me all the way across Texas to do one of these weekends. And an hour ago, I was standing back there in the back. And he came up to me. And I just want to reach out and hug his neck. And his name's Dave. Dave, would you stand up, please? Dave is one of those people that I get to work with. He's one of those people who gave me a life. God, I love him. And I could have never done that without you. And the funny part is, Dave brought his brother. I couldn't believe he brought his brother. But I want to introduce Mark. Mark, stand up. Everywhere I go, there's Daves and there's Marks and there's Darryls and their brother's Darryl. You know, and every place I go, there are people that I love and I'm a part of their life. And I get to be a part of their life because of you and because of what you mean to me. And it's changed my life entirely. I had a that kid. He's the smartest kid in the world. I met him when he was 16 years old. Big, tall kid, genius. Guy went on to college, first year in college, was a real smart guy, probably the smartest kid I ever met. I'd married his mother. That was his only disagreement with me. God bless him one night, in all his enthusiasm, he jumped out the second-story window of a university campus building and landed on a cot with a pound of pot. That's right. Now, the cop didn't have the pot. Chuck did. And Chuck, he went through a life change. It's like a spiritual awakening happened to him. And he went on back to school, and he stayed out of jail. He'd done the things they asked him to do, and he got him a good lawyer, and he stayed out of jail, and he went back to school, and he graduated. And when he got his degree, he stayed on his probation and went through it. And he went back and he qualified in the state of Georgia to become a school teacher. And you can't do that with the record he had. But they expunged the record and they let him become a school teacher. And he went back and got a master's degree in education at the University of Georgia. Finished up there and he got a new wife. He's one of us probably, but he got a new wife. And he called me and he said, I'm getting married to this new wife and I'd like for you to be my best man. And I said, man, that's amazing. I'd love to do it. And I got to be there and stand up with him. And we were standing in the back when they were getting ready to play that organ. And it was just me and him back there. And that big old tall kid looked at me and said, it's hard to believe that landing on a cot with a pound of pot would have done this to your life. And I said, no, hell, I see it every day. And see in your life, I see it. I've seen it 1,000 times. There's nothing unusual about that at all. Because I'm with you. He doesn't know that. He might not ever understand it. But I know it. I've got a daughter. God bless her. She's a great daughter. She was intelligent enough not to let me screw her up. I could have really messed her up. I could have worked with her, molded her. But thank God she was quick and pretty well grown up by the time I found her. She didn't have to go through all that crap, but one day she came home, living down in Florida. She came up to me and she was crying. And she said, I've had it. She'd been dating this same boy about 5 years. And I said, what's wrong? She said, well, I'm just tired of him spending all his money on cocaine. I said, damn, didn't even know that. And she was just crying and she was telling me about it. And I was so wanting to tell her about Al-Anon. I was so wanting to grab her and hug her and be her sponsor and help her out. But thank God sanity prevailed. And we sat there and we talked. And she went on out and she got her a life. And a couple of months later she came in. She said, Rollie, I said, what's that? She said, I'm dating a new boy and the boy's name is Bob. You remember Bob? And I said, no, I don't remember Bob. She said, oh, you remember Bob? Blonde-headed Bob, little tall Bob. I said, no. I said, I can't remember it. She said, oh, you remember Bob? He's the one that drove that car right through that plate glass window downtown. I said, yeah, I know Bob. Nothing out of the ordinary at all. Just like it's supposed to be. That's the way we are. We wouldn't have it any other way. Her and Bob got hooked up. Guess who got asked to stand up with her and give her away? And she asked me to do that, and I was amazed because that's something that I don't get to do. I'm an old redneck with an adopted family here. I don't have the opportunity to be a part of their life without you. And I got up there in front of that church, and I gave her away, and I cried like a baby. And all the members of AA and Al-Anon and then the weird people that came with us also, they looked at me, and I just loved them for letting me cry. And I knew that feeling that I'd felt 1,000 times when I'm with you. And I knew what it was going to be like with her. And it was. And you've given me that family. I'm going to tell you the saddest story that I tell. And this is going to make me cry. You don't have to cry, but I got to cry. I wasn't going to tell this story, but you got all these damn dogs. And I'm telling this for the dogs. Normally I don't get to speak to many dogs. This is an opportunity I don't want to pass by. And that is, at home we got this little dog and her name was Roxy. And we had her from the beginning. First got in the program, we found her. Carried her everywhere we went. She became a part of our family. She became important to us. The thing of importance that Roxy was for me is she made me do things I would not do otherwise. She made me go for walks, and she made me plan trips better. And she made me spend a little time in the house with her, and she taught me so many things. I want to steal Pat's story. Pat's got a story about Roxy. When Roxy would come in the house, Roxy hates to get a bath. And Pat would say, "Come here, Roxy, it's that time to get a bath." And Roxy would go hide. And she always hid in the same place, back in the Florida room, under a glass coffee table. And she'd curl up under that table, and Pat would look all over the house, and she'd work her way back into the Florida room. And when she got in there, she'd look around like she didn't see her. And she'd go to the door, and she'd look out, and she'd call for her, and she'd turn around and drop down on her hands and knees, and she would see Roxy. And she'd reach under there, and she'd pull Roxy out, and Roxy would just tense up. God, she hated to take that bath, and she knew what was coming. And she'd carry her down the hall, and she would ease her into the warm water, and she'd suds her up. She'd get her all pickled up there, my God, wet on everything. Roxy hating it. Little long-haired Dotson. She'd pull her out of the water, and she'd take a towel, and she'd wrap it around her, and she'd towel her down. And she'd get her all dried off, and she'd go to the back door. She'd open that door, and she'd drop Roxy on the ground, and Roxy would run and get in the dirt. She'd lay in the dirt and roll around, and she just look, and you could look on her face, and she loved it. God, she had this big dog grin, man. I'm in the dirt. I'm clean. The air is blowing by me, and I've got it just the way I love it. God, I'm Roxy, and I got it all. And she's laying there, and see, she will never be able to connect because she's a dog. The fact that she needed to have that bath and do what she did not want to do, to the good feeling and the fresh feeling that she feels when she rolls in that yard. And we're just like Roxy. We never realize that it's the things that we do not want to do. It's the ugly ones that you have to talk to. It's the poor people that come in that we would have no other connection with. We would have no need for those people in our lives. It's those people, when we get together, doing what we don't want to do, that allow us to have what Roxy had and what we have here. They're interconnected. She probably would have never made the connection. It seems like we could. It seems like we would eventually figure that out. It's not all the things you want to do. It's all the things you don't want to do. It's the changes that come from doing things you don't want to do that change your life. And that's what this is all about. Now, Pat and I were sitting there one day, and I told Pat, I said, "Pat, I love you. I'll do anything in the world for you, but they've asked me to move up to Georgia. Will you move with me?" And God, she said yes. And you know about alcoholics. They're not good at change. Then she got to thinking about it. That was back in September. We began to look for a house, and we found a house, and Roxy died. And we hung it in there, and my daughter graduated, and my son done his deal. And we're living down there in Gainesville, and 2 weeks ago we bought this little house up in Georgia in a little place called Sharpsburg. And Pat picked it out. And she's going to be leaving her friends and her people and the core of Alcoholics Anonymous that she's had for 14 years. And I'm going to be going into an area of Al-Anon where they don't do it right. And we were sitting there in front of the house, and she looked up and she said, "God, this is going to be tough." I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "We're going to change everything in our life." And I said, "What's unusual?" She said, "I think I'm going to name this Funny Bunny Farms." And so what we've done is bought us a Funny Bunny farm out in the middle of Georgia. And we're going to move up there and find that new group of people that are just like y'all. They're in Portland, Oregon. They're in Miami. They're in New York City. They're in Southern California. They're in Sharpsburg, Georgia. And God bless you, they're in Flagstaff, Arizona. They're everywhere I go. They're always there to meet me. And that's our real deal. Thank God somebody along the way passed it on to my sponsor, who passed it on to me, so that I could stand here today and have you pass it on again. God bless you. May God keep you. I love you all.
Thank you, Rollie. I kind of thought you were kind of cute myself.